Alright, hello everybody, welcome back to yet another match of the Cat Cup. Once again, we are here on the B stream and so on, and we've got yet another match going in. The winner's bracket will be none other than Luxian vs Unstablism. Seed 14 against Seed 19, and they've both made their way out of the round of 64 bracket, and they're here to face each other right here to see who's going to be continuing on the winner's bracket. I'm going to be your commentator, Epic Man 2, and so far, from the looks of it, I'm going to be doing it solo for the time being. So, okay, seeing that this is going to be pretty close, the roles were literally only differentiated by 1 point alone. So, okay, Luxian literally barely winning by anything. They've managed to win by only 1 point in the roles. I have a feeling that because both these players are very well rounded in their own respective right, I have a feeling that there's a lot they can really sharpshoot for. I would assume Luxian would probably want to opt in for Bandit Project pick, just based off the fact that Unstablism had gone a pretty big score on the likes of Shipai Saku from last week, where they got the #1 score with 999.3k. So yeah, as I say that right on time, going to be a rise-free ban as it stands. So it's going to be a little early than usual. So dealing that is, so it seems like their card's pretty much been exposed in the case that Unstablism is going to be the one that protects rise-free if they so choose to. So yeah, just awaiting Unstablism's first protect. They will be going rise-free now that Luxian unfortunately revealed their card a little too early. Would have been a good ban for them as well. However, because of the fact that they did reveal it a little too early and a little too hastily as well, it is going to go into the favor of Unstablism for this one in particular, as it does look like Luxian will respond with a EX2 protect as well. Makes sense. I mean, this is the harder LN pick that we have in the entire map pool, so it makes sense that they would want to try and exploit the flexibility of Unstablism when it comes to a variety of picks, assuming that, you know, but going off of last week's performances, both these players in particular are very well rounded in their own right. It just really depends on, I guess, what skill set they're actually playing, because we can see that Luxian has one of the highest scores going off EX2 from the previous round on Sweet Lemon Tea with a 986k, literally just sandwiched in between Yurfi and Vayne, for example, and the #5 spot on that. So it seems like LN1 will get the ban alongside Rise 5. Makes sense from both sides. They do want to at least try and take careful attention into each other's arsenal, as I know Unstablism is pretty much expected to be an accuracy monster as opposed to Luxian, who would want to try and exploit the LNs, which Unstablism is going to reflect that decision with the LN1 ban here. Because, I mean, as everyone knows, LN1 is the more coordination-oriented pick, and it's already bound to be a very competitive pick, as we've seen from any other round prior to this one. So as it stands, Rise 2 will be the first map that gets picked. Makes the most sense. This probably is just going off comfort, simply because I would imagine Luxian would want to try and start the match off on at least a straightforward no, without at least trying to really throw themselves off to the deep end this early. However, Unstablism, like I mentioned, is a really good Rise player as well, based off of some previous performances we've seen in the round of 64 matches. So I am particularly interested to see how this one is going to be going. It just depends on how well everyone does, because this is a map that goes on for 3.5 minutes just about. So it's going to matter quite a bit for either of these players to be able to sharpshoot their accuracies to a really, really high standard, because, you know, there's a lot of time you have to do it, and you don't really have any breathing time, if any at all, to even actually, you know, repurpose yourself to try and posture up when it comes to a map like this. So yeah, once again, just about 240 BPM jump streams, few trails, a bunch of anchors here and there. There's a lot of very direction-oriented pairing, as you could probably garner from the map alone, just seeing it at first glance. And so far, it seems like both players are off to a really good start. It's only really 0.01% that separates the two, and even then, we just see the smallest biases into one side. Luxun literally is grossing up being onto 100 points of an advantage. However, that's barely anything to mean anything for this map in particular. Unstabilism basically proving wonders as to how they are really good at accuracy, albeit they are going to be taking minuscule drops as well, as Luxun will punctuate their score just a few hundreds more, and that miss there is only going to reverse that effect completely with an entire 2,000 points now in favor of Unstabilism, proving that they have the stabilism to be able to stabilize themselves within such a radical pick as this, where you just have a lot to be able to control of, and just the fact that it never really stops for the entire course of the 3.5 minutes that it runs for here. So yeah, once again, this is pretty much expected of a category song if you're at least somewhat acquainted with their style, where they will have a lot of songs that pretty much run the same throughout the entire course of them. And, you know, this one being at about 3.5 minutes long, there's a lot that you really need to consider from it, especially when you allow Hachiko to work their wonders on a song like this. You pretty much know for a fact that it's basically bound and guaranteed to be quite the monster. I mean, you see a lot of these trills, you see a lot of these trills that are extended beyond what you usually expect, and that can add to the discomfort of some players as it is for Unstabilism when it comes to being able to try and at least ensure you can 100% act a lot of these patterns in question. Luxun at least being able to work their way through some of these, like recovering their accuracy really well following that miss. However, Unstabilism still has it all together, albeit they are dropping a little bit. It's just a bit of a more gradual thing, I suppose, because of the fact that it really just does come down to the fatigue on a map like this alone. Especially when you see the UR kind of skimming through every corner of the bar alone. And that alone is exactly what's going to drop Unstabilism's accuracy down very close down to the middle, which is exactly where Luxun wants to end. That's something that Unstabilism wanted to avoid as much as possible. The UR, or the MA ratio for Unstabilism is just deteriorating bit by bit. Even while they have the FC, it's really just down to the ratio game on this map alone. And, you know, taking a bunch of bloody misjudgments here and there, that's exactly what's going to bring the lead gradually into the favor of Luxun, still serving on a bit of a silver platter as well as the map is going to approach its end. There's only really 100,000 points set until the end, but Unstabilism, unfortunately, will take the final drop that is going to finally put the nail in the coffin for this pick alone. They've held very well all throughout the entire course of this map alone. However, it was just until the end that, unfortunately, after everything that's happened, all the mold that grew on the score, it's really just only going to mold around the score that Luxun has gotten themselves, as they halved the entire ratio that Unstabilism got. Even with only one miss, it was just down to the perfect game. And that's exactly what's going to grant the first point for Luxun, and a break point of that as well. Or actually, no, this isn't their first pick. Okay, no, it's not a breakpoint. My bad. All right. So then we await the next pick from Unstablism. I have a feeling riding off of this Rise 2 map, they probably could definitely go for yet another accuracy-centric pick. I would imagine they would feel right at home with something like Rise 3, where it's definitely one of those picks that you would want to at least throw out very early, or at least you wouldn't want to save until later, because especially when it comes to the late stages of a match in particular, you definitely want to try and watch out for the general nerve control that you would have, because especially with a matchup like this where, you know, you have a lot of maps to really choose from, a very good variety on this buffet here. We call the Kalyon Cup Grand 32 map pool. There's just a lot you could really choose from, and going for LN3, trying to like save some of these other picks for way later in the match when you really need to bust them out is, I suppose it makes sense. I mean, it's a lot shorter, so you won't really need to suffer with fatigue as much as you have on the likes of Rise 2, for example. But it's still a pretty decent pick. The only gripe I have with it is that Luxun is also just as good as Unstabilism when it comes to some of these more technical LN patterns, as well as we could kind of garner from the results of Vanguard from the previous round, where, you know, there was I mean, Luxun got about 990k on that map alone, and from the looks of it, I don't think I can see Unstablism playing it. Although they have played some other similar maps on the board, and Luxun did have a bit of an advantage going into the likes of Melt, so I guess there's that, like, to provide as a bit of a close comparison. Although this map is a lot more technical. There's a lot more unconventional planning that is incorporated within this, and we basically see that as Luxun will take the first drop as well, bringing it into the favor of Unstablism for the time being. And so far, the scoreline is pretty much marginalized, as the accuracy is very well in the hands of Unstablism, who's at least keeping it all consistent. Definitely a lot better of a start, or well, technically adjacent to that of what we saw in Raisu, although this is definitely going to be amplified a lot worse because, unfortunately for Luxun, this is a map that's way shorter, so the fact that this is a lot more technical and there's really less room to be able to try and at least pray for mistakes or pray for your opponent's downfall, that's exactly what Unstablism is going to be capitalizing off of on a map like this, where you finally have some room to breathe from. The first in this match so far, and we're only like 2 maps in, really. So yeah, once again, 4,000 points is only what separates these two players in particular. Lots of parents, there's a bit of coordination in this section alone, which both players go through neatly. There's not really much dirt to really lay off the ground anymore, as, you know, pretty much everyone is going to have to... There's really no time to really sanitize your score going into a map like this, so it's pretty much the only option that you have to go through the map as is, while you've already bled a little bit of judgments. And so far, going into the next drop, Unstablism is going to try their best to at least maintain that scoreline no matter what, because they want to be able to win on their own pick as well. They need to try and return a point while it is due, and so far they are dropping quite a bit on these pairs, not seeming to really be on hand when it comes to the variety of technical staggered releases that Bola is usually most well renowned for when it comes to tournament maps. And it's slowly dropping, but I think hopefully the final few patterns are going to be raining down. I don't think there's really enough time for Luxun to be able to take it, bleeding right onto 1,900 points over differential that separates these two, and it's a lot closer than the previous map, albeit the ratio game was won by Luxun. It was just down to the slider break and the miss as well. That is exactly what separates these two. And that's honestly kind of unfortunate to think about, because had it not been for those drops from Luxun, this definitely could have well been in the favor of Luxun, but it was just down to that, and Unstablism literally contrarying their own name by just somehow proving that, you know, even the combo game is just as important as the accuracy at times, as they will be going into LN2 immediately after. I suppose this is an okay pick, but at the same time, this is also a bit of a risk that Luxun is taking, just based off the fact that, you know, Polacro isn't really too different from the likes of Hurricane. It's basically just a lot more conventional, while it's at a very similar speed, on top of the fact that there's a lot of sections in this map alone that really have a lot of dense patterns that can really trip up a lot of players, especially in the middle, where you have, I mean, I guess the one section that everyone literally knows, I mean, everyone and their moms have already played Volcanic at this point, even all the 13-year-olds in this game now, and this is pretty much like the blue version of that. This is basically Volcanic if it was part of the Bloods instead of the Crips. And according to Stereotype, this is your favorite Ellen density jump scare, as it does look like they're trying to allude to that in the difficulty name of this map. But, I don't know. Pretty much, for as far as I've seen this map being played in a plethora of matches thus far, there's been a lot of, I guess, matches that have played this one out, and a lot of the time there's been a lot of players that did kind of fumble a little bit when it came to various of the sections. There seems to be a little bit of a kerfuffle when it comes to this map, since Luxun had just left the lobby. I'm not sure what exactly is happening, but hopefully they can join back to the lobby in time. I mean, I don't think there's really much time left to be able to, of the interval that goes into playing this map, where, you know, you're going to have to try and play no matter what. Seems like everyone else is confused as well, as according to the IRC chat. Alright, they are finally back, it looks like. It seems that they left on accident looking at the main Discord server, so sorry for your loss. But I think that aside, I think now we should be safe to start the map now. I mean, this is one of the shorter maps in the map pool overall. Definitely shorter than that of Ellen Free, so that's also going to serve as yet another issue that either player is going to have to look out for on a risky pick as this, where both players are very equally balanced. And, you know, going off LN2 from the previous round, they've literally they're not even that far in terms of score, like, at all. Like, well, they're only apart by just under 2,000 points when it came to the likes of Melt Remix. So, trying to imagine what they're going to be doing on this map is, okay, what happened? That was like probably the worst start I probably could have expected from Lookshoot, and that's really unfortunate because, like, it doesn't seem like they will be calling in a Vor either. Oh wait, no, now I think this is a Vor. Alright, I see. Probably was some keyboard issues, but I can't be entirely sure. But yeah, it seems like we will be getting that abort no matter what. Hopefully. It would be really unfair in Lookshoot if it did come down to that being the one start they would have to the map and whatnot. Alright. Lookshoot's back in the lobby. Assuming that was a keyboard issue that came from inside of Lookshoot, I would probably lead myself to assume that they would have wanted to disconnect just to try and sort that out real quick, because it seems like that was two, like, buffers they would have needed to go into this map alone, which is kind of confusing because I'm not sure what exactly would have happened, but it seems like everything should be resolved now, and hopefully we can now have a proper start to this map alone, which is definitely going to matter a lot for Lookshoot, because this is a really risky pick that both players are going to be treading upon here. I mean, following off Ellen Free, that was already a really close map overall. I mean, you saw from... I mean, overall, Lookshoot has the advantage when it comes to the general accuracy or ratio, but it's really just maintaining combo that's going to be the next matter to worry about, which Unstablism has at hand. So, with this being the shorter LN map of the pool and the only one remaining as well, this is pretty much the make or break moment for either player, because this is really anyone's game, and that's exactly what the problem is. That's exactly where the issue lies in this investigation we call here in this match, and so far so good. Lookshoot has the advantage by just a little bit. We've seen from various of the other maps that Lookshoot does tend to have some very early drops. Hopefully that won't be the case for this one, because this is once again going to be very important for Lookshoot to be able to try and keep attack. This is their own pick that they're making after all, so riding off the risk that they really can take a map like this is going to matter pretty much the entire world to them right now, and they're at least scaving by with over 1,500 points. And, you know, going into this great little intermission section, this is the part where it goes into probably the one part that's perhaps the easiest to choke on in the map, where you have so many staggered releases, a lot of these streams that literally just keep going for the entire second third of the map, and so far so good. Unstablism did drop a little bit, so there's more leeway for Lookshoot to work with going into this section, but it's just really consistent. You really cannot let your eyes go off the board as, you know, final mini LNs. Then you gotta look out for probably the most dangerous parent of all, as it's 6,000 points in the favor of Lookshoot now. Unstablism dropping once again. Okay, watch out. Rise first. Both players are going to be FCing that, and unfortunately, Unstablism is the one that's going to stay true to their name with a few misjudgments that are on the board going from some of these parents. And Honestly, probably the worst point to choke as well, because this is not really the longest map at all by any means, and the map's just gonna end like that, with Luxun having 9,500 points to breathe from, a 994k to end it off. And a pretty strong point for them as well. Another strong statement to make that they are a force to be reckoned with when it comes to LNs if it does come down to both players FCing. Yeah, despite it all, it seems like the next pick is going to be made in the favor of Unstablism. Now that it's their turn to pick, Rice 1 will be what we are choosing next. So it seems like from both sides in particle, they've pretty much managed to pick both LN and Rice maps overall. Both the entire LN category is now out, so the only options that Luxun has, if they want to at least tread close to the maps they had there, would be to go into the hybrids or to go into EX2, which is still on the board for grabs. Whereas Rice 1, Unstablism, pretty much good pick from them. I mean, they pretty much would want to bank on any consistency-oriented map in the Rice category that's at least somewhat adjacent to that of Rice 2. Although, at the same time, I am honestly unsure about how this one's going to be going, because there is a pretty fair discrepancy between these two on the Rice category as well as Luxun. You know, I mean, pretty much both of these players do struggle with their own individual consistency issues as well. This was not really the longest pick either, only really, what, 15 seconds longer than Hurricanic by if anything. This one being like fast speed oriented parents as well is definitely going to at least put a damper in anyone's scores if it does come down to potential mistakes being made, because, you know, there's a lot of breathing room they have, especially with these light broken jump streams that you have, fairly easy to act as per usual. There's really no advantage to be seen at whatsoever, and that's basically the issue that's going to come into fruition literally soon, as we are going into this next drop where you have a lot of these fast delay streams as well. Luxun with the slimmest advantage of only 100 points, only just randomly delegated into the other side whenever there is even a few yellow 300s. It's really just about keeping the MA on this one and being able to master a lot of these transitional moments within the map itself, which is definitely going to be the worst enemy of many, if anything. And oh my god, okay, that's the first miss coming out from Luxun right there for 4,000 points in the favor of Unstablism now, and it's exactly what's going to benefit them, because this is their own pick that they're trying to make. They want to be able to equalize things out, but there's still so much more of the map that's actually left. So there's still the potential that Unstablism could take a miss of their own and eventually equalize things for Luxun, but they do not want to let that happen. They want to try and at least focus on the combo game for this one alone, because again, they have literally been doing their best with a lot of maps earlier on. I saw a grade there, but that's going to be fairly negligible with the fact that the score lead's already quite big as is. 6,000 points is no slouch when it comes to both players literally being so equal in what they're doing. So at this point, it's really going to have to come down to really monstrous or disastrous misjudges and misses, as we can see here. A few grades are being bled, and it's going close. Oh my god! Wait! Are you actually... Oh my... Dude! 103 points! What? Okay? Bro. Bro, it was so close throughout the majority of it, and Unstablism just very unfortunately gave out at the exact final second of the map. Had it not been for that miss, they would have easily gotten the point, but now that's just a break point that's given up in the favor of Luxun, and probably the worst one to give up as well, because you literally had it in the bag for the good majority of the map following the miss that Luxun took. But because of the miss at the very end, now things are equalized once again, although Luxun is now in the lead. About only 2 points he needs to be able to just take this and run away into the round 16 winners bracket, if anything. and Luxian going to be riding off that as well. They have a lot of options they can choose from on the board, but I doubt that they want to even touch the Rise category anymore, seeing what happened with this map in particular. They want to perhaps, I would assume, go for Hybrid 2. That's like the closest they could go for that's like adjacent to that of Ellen 3, but no, they'll go Hybrid 1. So honestly, also very understandable decision. It's pretty much nearly the same as Ellen 2. Although it is Rice that's embedded in between some of these parents, so not quite. Now maps are going to matter a lot more for Unstablism at this point because they have been doing really good. They've improved their track record a lot better as the match went on. And, you know, winning a point of their own, they've also been keeping things very uptight when it came to the score lead overall between themselves and their opponent on the other front as well. But that 103-point victory from Luxian is definitely a paragraph that speaks for itself. Like, it's definitely one of those things where you just like see, and that alone can just trigger a million words in your head. And that's exactly what Unstablism probably is gonna have to try and ignore. They need to try and push for these nerves to be able to try and win some picks, because now they're basically forced to win off some breakpoints of their own, as well as Luxian still has a lot of options that may as well be safe for them. But unfortunately, there's only really one player that can go into the next bracket on their own without at least a few of these occurrences happening. And so far, only past the first quarter, this is also just an insanely short map, even shorter than Rise 1 is, and 2 minutes and 7 seconds. This is going to feature a lot more break time as well, so you have even less time to make mistakes, as much as Unstablism is already making some, which is not even coming from the hardest section of the map at all. So that's going to be a bit of a cause of concern from how it stands right now. Some more jump streams, some more streams coming out as well. Luxian with the advantage, 2,500 points is what separates these two. The very slim lead, as we've all been seeing throughout this entire match thus far, but it can very easily be negated if it does come down to a singular miss, as we've seen Luxian just throw out in various of the other matches before. But this is going to have to be a really important one for that to happen as well. I mean, Unstablism literally just needs to focus on at least trying to ensure their accuracy is as good as possible, because there's already quite a stark contrast in terms of how big the accuracy is on both sides. I mean, you know, 83 and 65 are pretty much a fair margin apart. It's just about 0.20% in difference, and Unstablism just continues to drop here and there, not being able to bring themselves to at least fruition when it comes to some of these patterns, which are all the more conventional, but it's just really the control that you require to be able to hit a lot of these LNs on the side as well. A lot of the shields, a lot of these Suedo inverse patterns as well that are very light. And unfortunately, Unstablism is just only going to continue finding drops on them, as well as it's going to be pushed to 4,900 points of a differential separating the two. If it didn't even come down to the greats or the misjudges from Unstablism, this would have gone in the favor of Luxian either way. And that's honestly probably the most heartbreaking part of it, although this is going to be the sentiment that pushes them to throw out Hot Rice Free once and for all, as this is their potential final pick already. Luxian already at match point. They've got to make a difference, and if anything, it's going to have to be the difference being made now with the one pick they've proven to be incredibly strong in the previous weekend on. All right, so moving on to Rice Free. This is going to be slightly longer than various of the other maps we've had so far. 2.5 minutes, 2 minutes and 34 seconds to really work your will on. Unstablism has proven to us that they are able to get some of the strongest ratio scores and just proving absolute monstrous consistency when it comes to a map like this, being a literal human metronome at that. So this is exactly what they're gonna have to replicate going into this match alone, and probably the best point that they could have done it as well, although the nerves are probably gonna bleed into them just a little more if it does come down to this one being fairly close, because Luxun is also just as consistent as they are when it comes to the Rice alone. I mean, there's already some rubatos when it comes to how good these players are doing, so also fluctuation in terms of how accurate they are playing, because the OD is still quite tight. Not as tight as last weekend's, but still, I guess 0.7 in OD of a difference. But despite it all, Unstablism has perhaps the smallest advantage possible. That was 20 points, 20 score of a difference, and now the difference is gone completely. 19 to Luxun. It's probably going to disappear based on some yellow 300s. As I say that, it's literally stuck to 0. A lot of triple jacks and all these broken core jacks as well that Unstablism is going to have to really stabilize themselves for. Literally, this is the one point where you're really going to have to really lock in, and Unstablism is a victim of that right now. This is the one point that they cannot disappoint themselves on. And, you know, with how close this is literally looking, it's literally staying like this throughout the entire course of the map. I've not seen a single moment of this map alone where everything was even bigger than even 400 points. And that's definitely saying a lot about how easy this map is and how that's problematic for either side, because when you're pitted against someone who's able to play this just as good as you are, you're literally facing them in time trials, and that's exactly the problem here. Luxun now has an advantage, traded out by even the slimmest. Okay, that's a great I just saw from using Unstablism, but somehow it's still equalized out. But no, it is no longer canceled out by anything else. Luxun is going to be taking it by 1,200 points, and if it does not come down to a miss, this is going to be it for Unstablism. They will be knocked down into the loser bracket, and final few notes raining down is the clean difference of 1,600 points and a difference of so many perfect. It was the fault of 100 that brought it all in the favor of Luxun once again. The final upset, the final breakpoint that was needed to be able to take it in their favor. 5-1, and to punch their ticket right on to the round 16 winners bracket. Whew. Damn. All right, so once again, congratulations to both these players. As for the likes of Unstablism, hope is not all lost just yet. They will be knocked down into the loser bracket, where they will have to face a few players here and there. I think for the round of 16, where the conditionals begin, they will have to face between Exemplar and Combo Gaming, whereas they will have to face between Yodi, Itch, and then also Newson and Duckies between the two. So it seems like things are going to be, I guess, fairly straightforward for them in that bracket, but I guess we'll just have to see. But as it stands, we will be switching right on to JustSomeGuy97 versus renbert now that it's still ongoing. And from as it stands, apparently it is currently 3-all right now. No one has an advantage, and they're both 1 point away from going tiebreaker, as this is going to be yet another miss from JustSomeGuy going into Rice 1. 5,000 points already, and the problem is, I would assume that it was probably because of the decisions that various players have made on this matchup alone, which is basically bringing it into one side. Some of the LNs I would assume are favored towards JustSomeGuy97. Some of the Rice are favored towards renbert, for example, just going off how this one's going right now. But at the same time, the accuracy margin is a lot lower between these two. So it's really that, I mean, JustSomeGuy97 definitely has a lot of room to work with here. No doubt about that. But renbert, on the other hand, is looking to try and maintain as best of a combo as they can. There's a lot of yellow 300s that are being slipped up from this one alone. However, there's still a lot of the map that's left for anything else to happen. I mean, 12,000 points is a bit of a rough mountain to climb, even if you have all the right hooks for it. But at the same time, I've seen many things happen around these streets before, so kind of at the point where I've become desensitized to it, but more misses come out from JustSomeGuy97, and unfortunately, I think that's only going to be minimized. The chances of even being able to take this point is just going to be continually minimalized by so much more than they would have wanted. This is only a first 5 situation, only a best of 9. You have only 9 maps to play to be able to decide who's a winner if it does come down to both players just repeatedly getting points one after another. So renbert in with this one is probably going to take it by storm if they do not let go of the keyboard. All right, so pretty stark difference between these two players as we can see, and that's going to be the match point for renbert as it currently stands. Hybrid 1 will get the final pick out of all of these, so okay, I see where this is going. All right, so let's have a look. Because we came into this match fairly late, it pretty much makes the most sense that I would try to at least look at what else has happened in this match alone. So if I just grab the MP link real quick, just to recap everything that's happened thus far in this one match, we didn't get to really witness as much. Seems like Rise 4 and LN2 were to protect alongside bans being on Rise 5 and LN1. Makes sense coming from both these players. And there was pretty much a lot of victories that were shared between these two players, especially for the Rise maps, which were mostly won by renbert for the time being, especially on Rise 2 and EX1. JustSomeGuy won on Hybrid 2 alongside LN2 and Rise 4, and renbert also won on LN3. So really, this is going to have to be the likes of JustSomeGuy97 being able to take what they absolutely can of this map alone, because a lot of points have been fairly objective so far. I mean, except from LN3, which was only a difference made by 687 points. But this is a hybrid map. This is the closest thing that JustSomeGuy97 has to LN, and right now, with all the misjudges and all the faltering that's happening, it's really just gonna have to come down to renbert having to sacrifice to make some mistakes of their own as well to even bring things back to JustSomeGuy97. This is also in the losers bracket, I may add, so this is literally going to be the life of JustSomeGuy97 on the line here if renbert chooses to try and make their way into round 16 as soon as possible. Literally not much else to be said as we're going into the final quarter, 7,000 points and still increasing just bit by bit. Going into this section, there's still a lot of map left, and with JustSomeGuy97 having taken some misses of their own, it might be close to over for them unless renbert finally shines a light on them. But now it seems like the stability of renbert is dropping a significant amount. It's dropping down to 3,000 points. But at the same time, is there enough time? Oh no, we're going into the ending. It's basically done. But the drops brought it down to 1,800, but unfortunately not going to be enough for JustSomeGuy97 to be able to take this one either, as it's going to be a 5-3 victory, only 1 point away, just barely dodging the tiebreaker at that as well, to be able to make their way into round 16. And, oh, man, there's still so much of the turn that's left to be facing. I mean, they're going to have to face between Yellow or Nemesis in the losers bracket. Just put into perspective how messed up that sounds, because that's exactly what's happening. And actually, no, they will be facing Nemesis as a matter of fact, because Yellow beat them in a 5-0 sweep yesterday as well. Once again, commiserations to both players on this match and the other one as well. This is Yet another quick match that we had to witness. I mean, we only really got to witness like 2 matches. We didn't really get to witness the entire course of anything at this point, but at the same time, still open for a lot of really interesting scenarios as we've still got more fuel to burn throughout this entire weekend. We are approaching the end of the 12 UTC block of matches. We still have Nixon vs Doge the Doge 25 happening on the mainstream, if anything, and which, may I add, I want to try and see what's actually going on with that match as well, but Twitch is going to lag for me the minute I try to enter the website. All right, let's see. Okay, it seems like, all right, let's see what's happening on the main stream. There's still a lot. We're only about 30 minutes into that one as well, but still a lot more is happening. It seems as though Doge the Doge is currently 5-2 against Nixon, but it's also really close starting on Hybrid 1. So feel free to tune into that one as well. It's going to be the last match for the time being until we have a little bit of a break, leading into the 15 UTC for Newsom vs Duckies, and then the finale of the Random 32 weekend as well for Bebel vs Lightspeed Bolt and Maniac vs Cycle as well. So once again, I've been Epic Man to commentate for both these matches you've witnessed today on this very B stream, and we'll catch you in another time. We'll catch you in a few hours. Be there, be square, and do be sure to check out the A stream as well for more goodness. If that one goes hybrid release, hopefully it does. Anyways, thank you all so much. Bye bye.